Good morning on this Sunday, March 22nd, and welcome to the Georgia Gang. It has been a week of staying home for most of us, and it's not about to end anytime soon. We take a look at how state leaders are handling the response to the coronavirus pandemic. A Georgia state senator under fire for coming to the Capitol while sick. Later, he tests positive for the virus. And Georgia's junior U.S. senator comes under fire for allegations of insider trading during a pandemic. The gang is all here, and this is a first. We're keeping our distance following the advice of health officials. The debate and discussion begin right now.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
The number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 continues to rise, and so does the death toll here in Georgia. This has been a trying week for so many: the victims, their family members and friends, healthcare workers, first responders, not to mention small business owners, restaurant owners, their employees. I mean, the list is really endless. So, Phil, we're going to start with you. Governor Brian Kemp and state public health officials have kept us updated daily. Is he doing enough, in your opinion?
Well, I have to commend Governor Kemp by keeping us with these alerts and updates, and also telling localities, look, you're going to have to do some judgment calls on yourself, because obviously Metro Atlanta and the situation there is far different from, say, a rural county like Tolliver County, where the loss of jobs could be critical in small counties if they're just shut down immediately. So I think this is good, and I think, like in Metro Atlanta, I would have to say that Mayor Bottoms did the right thing, because a lot of people weren't doing social distancing. And I do think, though, perhaps in hindsight, maybe some restaurants that could have had social distancing could have tried it for a while, and of course we're still doing carryout.
All right, Theron, you just heard Phil give a compliment to Mayor Bottoms.
Yeah, shocking.
We saw California's governor called for a lockdown. Some Democrats here have called for that in Georgia. I mean, these are not easy decisions. So do you agree with some of your fellow Democrats? Should the state be under a lockdown?
Well, I agree with Phil, and I know that's a first in a long time, but he's absolutely right. Listen, Governor Kemp has sort of had a very proactive approach to this. He's been over-communicating with the public, and the two entities, the city and the state, have been basically in constant communications. I don't think we're there quite yet for a full statewide lockdown because of the communication string. Now, and when you see California basically saying that they're going to totally shut down the state, I think you will see other states follow. But also, as Phil mentioned, we have a lot of other rural counties across the state that will be tremendously impacted. And so I think I want to compliment Mayor Bottoms for stepping up and doing the right thing. She had a very measured, scaled approach, and she over-communicated with a lot of the small businesses that are actually going to be affected with this. So I do think that the governor is going to look at what's going on in California. I just don't think Georgia is quite there yet.
Kathy, expand on that, because you know, some of the rural counties haven't even reported one case of the coronavirus. Now, there is a concern that Georgia hospitals could be overwhelmed because the victims treated in hospitals almost all need intensive care and ventilators. So what can state leaders do to help the hospitals here?
Well, here's what the governor should do today, and that's expand Medicaid. We've been talking about this for a while. We're one of 14 states that haven't done it. And not only would this be the best thing he could do for health care, but it would be the best thing he could do right now for the economy. For $35 million investment, we'll get $3 billion back this year in insurance reimbursements to our hospitals. We've had 7 hospitals that have closed in recent years. 3 more announced early this year that they were going to shut down, and the General Assembly put $5 million just to prop them up for a few months. We could put 500,000 more people on insurance, and there's 200,000 that would qualify in addition to that just need to be renewed. So there's things that the governor could do right now. He's got the ability to do it. We've got the money to do it, and he ought to do it right this minute, because we need to get people insured and get them getting health care appropriately. And folks in rural places without hospitals just aren't going to hospitals. We don't know.
Janelle, I was going to ask you about testing, but you know, this is a really important subject. Republicans have been very hesitant to talk about expanding Medicaid. Is now the time?
I don't think now is the time to do that. I think the focus right now is to be on, finding a way to get rid of this virus. When we first started all of this, we were looking at a situation where we had individuals who felt like maybe we should give it some time, it's not that serious. Then we had people that go into a space where they were like, let's take drastic measures. I think we should issue what I call the kill shot, right? Which is, I do think we need to do a short period lockdown to address it, because in my opinion, locking everyone down for a short period of time in order to address this issue head on will now open up opportunities for us to start recovering. If not, we're going to just continue to just push forward, keep doing this, and I think it's just going to prolong the inevitable. I don't think we need to focus on any type of policy as it relates to, Medicaid and spending when we don't know what the state of the economy is going to be after we come out of this.
Phil, prayers are going out this week for State Senator Brandon Beach, who tested positive for the coronavirus days after he says doctors told him he had bronchitis. So he did go to the Capitol because he was being treated for bronchitis. Phil, he's come under attack by some who say he should have stayed home and he should have known better. You talked to him on Friday morning. How are his spirits and how does he respond to some of these attacks?
Well, the good news is I did speak with him Friday morning, and he's getting a lot better. And as you point out, his doctors told him they thought it was bronchitis. He apparently has had this every flu season or every pollen season, and so he didn't think much of it. I think that the attacks are unfair, and I think Senator Steve Gooch actually had a good quote the other day that it's kind of scary, but I think we all have to reflect on it, and that is that there's a lot of lawmakers or people that are walking around with the coronavirus but don't know it yet because they haven't been tested. They may think it's the flu or something. And so in an abundance of caution, that's the phrase we use a lot nowadays. In hindsight, I think probably you shouldn't have gone.
Kathy, are people justified to be upset here? We've all been down to the Capitol on a daily basis. I always called it this just cesspool of germs because everybody's in this confined space and so close and shaking hands. Are people right to be upset about this?
Well, they probably are, but it doesn't matter because the horse is out of the barn, right? It's already happened, and what we need to know now is that you can be carrying the virus and be asymptomatic. You can be spreading it just by being in a place. So people need to stay home, wash their hands, follow the precautions, and assume that every single person you encounter has the virus and has the potential to transmit it to you as well as yourself.
That's a good point. Theron, let's switch topics here and talk about the state budget. We're already under state budget cuts. What happens now? Should we continue using some of the rainy day fund? More budget cuts on the way? More tough decisions on the way?
Well, there are a lot of tough decisions on the way, and let's, for our viewers, remind them that the legislature came together on that Monday, which was the final day that they were in session before they suspended session, and to really give Governor Kemp a lot of power and also a lot of discretionary funding to really fight the coronavirus. Now I think what you see the rapid increase of the people who are coming forward that are being tested positive, this has moved to the forefront. This is a paramount issue that has got to be on the minds of every single state legislator. I believe, Lori, what you'll see is the governor, lieutenant governor, and the speaker and different agencies will come together to really look at the budget closely, because at the end of the day, we do not want people who deserve to get tested, deserve treatment, to not have the funding necessary from the state, from the federal government, and also local governments to basically be able to help these people beat this epidemic. So more importantly, I think that the cuts now that we were previously discussing are probably going to move a little lower down in the queue, but healthcare is going to be definitely at the top of the list.
Janelle, how bad do you think this is going to get? People are not going shopping, they're not going out to bars and restaurants. It's going to be quite a hit to the general fund here. What do you see coming?
Yeah, I think it's going to get extremely bad. I think that's part of, I think that is part of the concern, is that it is going to get bad. I think that what we have to pay attention to is how fast do we address it, or do we just kind of prolong it, as I was stating earlier, because we already know that this is something that is coming, that it will, like I said, get worse over time. I think we should just take drastic steps like today in order to prepare for tomorrow.
All right, well, coming up, we've seen some drastic steps already. Cities are going a step further by ordering restaurants, gyms, and bars and other businesses to close. We'll discuss straight ahead.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
Well, Senator Kelly Loeffler is responding to allegations that she dumped massive shares of stock following a private Senate briefing on the coronavirus. Janelle, we're kind of waiting to see how all of this shakes out. You're the honorary co-chair of her campaign. You talked to her this morning, on Friday morning. You said, what did she have to say?
Yeah, so let me start by saying that, we do not have Gordon Gekko and Bobby Axelrod in the Senate that are shaking and willing and dealing and making all these steps towards any type of insider trading. What we talked about was the basic information that I think a lot of people just don't know about the process of stocks and trading in general. And that's that there is a third-party company that manages all portfolios. And Senator Loeffler said that she totally expected all of this to come out, as she totally expected there to be a hit on her as it relates to the stocks and things of that nature because of her husband being the chair of the New York Stock Exchange. So we already expected this to come at some point. But to that point, she took extra precautions when she entered the Senate to sign away all of her rights, all of her, she can't give any type of advice, discretion, or whatsoever on any of her portfolios as it relates to the third party company or anything of that nature. And then even when it comes to her husband and her joint accounts, they also have put in precautions as well. He has to get a clearance to do anything with his money, their money, or any of that. And that's been in place for the last few years. And then 8 years ago, when he took over, I believe it was 8 years ago when he took over the stock exchange, they were instrumental in putting a law in place that basically said that that they can no longer be a part of any of the decision making when it comes to their funds. And so let's keep in mind that the third party is also under fiduciary responsibility, which means that they are supposed to take certain action that's in the best interest of the client. So when we see money moving, that's definitely normal. It happened. Everyone was doing it at that time. That everyone is pointing out. Not to mention that we have to keep in mind that this is a normal discussion that she anticipated coming. So there was nothing going on, nothing wrong, nothing shady happening, no type of willing and nilling.
Kathy some time to respond here because we just want to remind our viewers. I mean, Senator Loeffler responded on Friday on Fox News. She knows the rules, that's what she said. And it is illegal for members of Congress to make trades that are based on information that they receive from their official duties. Kathy, weigh in here because Janelle said, everybody was doing this during that time, but during that time I think it was January 24th when she got that Senate briefing and then the trades happened. Was everybody doing that at that time? Want to get your perspective.
Probably everybody wasn't doing it that day. And that's the problem. People have got to be able to trust their leaders right now because things are going to be happening as we try to normalize the situation and save businesses that are going to require movement to be fast and in different kinds of ways. So when somebody receives a report in a committee that's private and the next day sells off not a normal amount of stocks, a very, very large number of stocks, then that causes a problem of perception. And there was a problem when she got appointed to the committee that oversees the New York Stock Exchange right from the get-go. So I think this is a problem. I think she ought to get off the committee, and I think Congress ought to investigate this.
Phil is trying to get my attention from across the room. So Phil, I know you want to talk about this.
Well, I think there's a journalistic and political aspect to this that shouldn't be forgotten. I used to work for a U.S. senator and on Capitol Hill, and we all know in the world of politics how leaks are. And as a journalist, you look at where the sources came. The sources for this hit job, and there was another senator from North Carolina, David Perdue, is being dragged into this. George Soros operated societies have done this, organizations. They started the hit. It's been picked up by the Associated Press and their echo chamber in the liberal media. Why are they doing this? These are vulnerable senators politically. I'd like to see Republicans and conservatives fight fire with fire. Let's look at these limousine liberal Democratic millionaire senators and see what they've done. I think that points have been made that are pretty good, and that is that third parties are handling these stocks. If anything is found illegal, yes, there should be prosecutions, but these are political hit jobs. And remember, it's a political season.
Theron, I cannot move on without getting your perspective and your take on this.
And I'll try to be brief, but I'm a little poor country boy from Athens, Georgia, so I called some of my rich friends and I asked them, I said, is it appropriate, as Janelle pointed out, for a third-party entity to basically move stocks and do trading? And the answer to that question is yes. But here's the problem, which Kathy pointed on. At a time where the American people are losing millions, if not hundreds, tens of thousands of dollars, not just in the stocks, but also their 401ks, they don't have jobs to go to. I just think the optics of this just look really bad. The other thing I want to say is this, is that when also my rich friends told me is that $3 million to Senator Loeffler is basically equivalent to about a month of expenses for her. So this is really not a lot of money that she was moving around. And the last thing I'll say is this, Janelle said that she knew about this. They did all their opposition research. They knew this was coming. Well, as Phil pointed out from a journalistic standpoint, they should have gotten in front of this. The minute she left that meeting, she should have disclosed that she was in the meeting. She basically should have said she will not have any communications with this third-party company that is responsible for allocating these trades.
That is Crisis Communications 101, Janelle. You're shaking your paper at me. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when I said that she knew this was coming, what I mean is that she didn't know necessarily about this particular situation because as we all know, when it comes to disclosure, she found out 3 weeks after the trade and all that happened that had occurred. So that's not what I'm referring to. What I'm saying is that we knew that there was going to be a hit on her wealth. We knew it was going to be a hit on the stocks and all of that in the nature. And let me just be clear about this as well. Senator Loeffler is focusing on small businesses right now. She is in the Senate right as we speak, laying a significant amount of foundation for our small businesses to make sure that they are taken care of in this time of need. I promise you that she's concerned more about the cross intersection of health and livelihoods that's taking place right now than any of this.
All right, we're going to wrap it there because coming up, we're going to talk about some of the relief that is available to Georgians. Is it enough? And are Georgia elected officials doing enough on that front? Stay tuned.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
Last weekend, when the U.S. House took a vote on the economic relief bill, 2 Georgia Republicans were explaining why they voted against it, saying it wasn't about the content of the bill, which did provide paid sick leave, assistance for food banks, free testing for the coronavirus, just to name a few of the items in there. They said it was the process, and we're talking about Congressman Jody Hice and Barry Loudermilk. Janelle, your thoughts on their reasons here? They're talking about processes.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I definitely think that there should be more discussion around this. And so let me start right here too. My heart goes out to all the parents who are at home with their kids. You know, I don't have any small kids at home, but I do think that there is a significant amount of information that needs to be surrounding this particular topic as we go forward.
Kathy, you want to weigh in here? I mean, there is a lot of Democrats and Republicans are talking about, being left out, processes, means testing, and all of this. Is this the time that we need to see both sides here now more than ever working together?
Absolutely. We've got to take politics off the table as much as we can in an election year. And frankly, Loudermilk and Hice need to put their big boy pants on and get to the table. Nancy Pelosi was negotiating with the White House in good faith for days to come up with this package. Just because you didn't get a personal phone call doesn't mean you can't get in there and do your homework. So I think that's a huge problem. There's lots and lots of things that Congress can do. One of the things that would be great if Loeffler's working on this or they're working on this is to repeal the credit elsewhere provision, which says that if you get state money, then you're not eligible for federal money. That needs to come off the table tomorrow so we can start moving money from the feds to the states and from the states to the businesses.
All right, Phil, I see you motioning over there. You want to weigh in on the politics behind all of this?
Well, a couple quick points. I think it's frustrating for anybody who's a lawmaker at the state or federal level when you're doing a rush job and you can't read everything, and then all of a sudden, Senator Theron Johnson's writing his amendment in the margin in a pen, and then I don't see it, but his leader sees it, and this goes on a lot, and I can understand the frustration. And so that's point number one. Point number two is we have really got to balance our health concerns with coronavirus with jobs. If we're going to have 20% unemployment in a week or two, that is dangerous for this country, and that's a bipartisan problem. And I think we've got to protect jobs at all costs in coming weeks.
Phil, Theron promoted you here on the show, so let's hear your perspective on all of this political side of it.
I kind of like the tone of that, Lori. You know, Senator Theron Johnson. Stay tuned. But no.
Did he ever get elected?
Maybe, I don't know. But no, real quickly, I think at the end of the day, I have to agree with Kathy. I think, you know, when Republicans were in control, if two Democrats decided to not vote for aid that the people of Georgia deserve and quite frankly Americans deserve, then Republicans will be criticizing them. At the end of the day, you know, Democrats are in control of the U.S. House. This was something that they communicated with, and this is something that we have to move fast on because we were under a crisis. So I definitely think that these two congressmen will definitely need to get involved and stay in constant contact with our two U.S. senators as we move forward.
Well, also a major decision this week, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger has delayed Georgia's presidential primary until May, citing concerns over the coronavirus. So this was a good call. I mean, you think about all of the poll workers out there, many of them retirees. Well, now there's a big push to use absentee ballots. So Theron, weigh in on this decision here. Obviously, I think it was a great call by the Secretary of State.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been very critical, but also very complimentary of this Secretary of State. And I want to commend him for really coming out and sort of postponing this election. Now, there are a lot of people in presidential politics and local elections that will probably criticize me for saying that because some folks had momentum. This is also going to hurt folks' ability to fundraise. But at the end of the day, when I think about people like my mom, who probably has already early voted or if she hasn't early voted, to give her the opportunity to vote by mail, to use absentee ballots. And I want to say to all our viewers, is that if you voted early in this election that was postponed, your vote still will be counted. So I definitely think this is a good move by the Secretary of State.
Phil, weigh in on the politics of this and the down balloting, because, you know, now we have presidential primary up top of the ballot. Does any party particularly benefit from this decision at all?
Well, this is a good point. The date is May 19th. That'll be the big day for both the Democrats and Republicans, and also there's nonpartisan ballots, for example, for judgeship races all across the state. Who will benefit? If you look at the suburban Atlanta 6th district, congressional district, that's where Lucy McBath is the freshman Democrat. She flipped that seat from the Republicans. You remember Karen Handel used to have that. Karen Handel is running again. I think it's good for Republicans because Republicans of every stripe, and I think they're pulling in a lot of moderates and independents who are tired of the liberal McBath. I think there'll be a heavy Republican vote in that area of East Cobb and in North Fulton. And so I think that you can see indicators where there may be some heavy Democrat votes in some urban areas. But I actually think this could help the Republicans. And of course, I always like to see the Democrats have more time to cut each other up into pieces. That's good.
Oh, Kathy, he says that this will help Republicans. So what do you think?
Well, here's what I think. I think that the Secretary of State is working through this as quickly as he can, and we really appreciate that. I think he needs to take over the administration of the entire Georgia primary on May 19th, because right now the distribution of the absentee ballots is going county by county, and people are having a hard time getting one clear answer. So this is the appropriate time for the Secretary of State to be the one who administers the election for the entire state and to send absentee ballots out to every single voter.
All right, we'll end there because coming up, lots of winners this week. Stay tuned, everyone.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
I want to say the team here are all winners, because if you could only imagine how they're trying to get my attention, that they have a say at this, they're snapping their fingers. So thanks, everyone. Phil, we're going to start with you. With
Lori,
winners.
this format actually was a winner, so it worked out okay. I also want to make it winners President Trump and the health team, Dr. Tony Fauci, who gives great information at those news conferences. And also, as we discussed earlier, Governor Kemp, I think, has done a great job in how he's handling things so far. And I've got a loser. It has to do with the university system of Georgia, and it actually should be frustrating for everyone who wants people to be educated about our Constitution, government, and history. My loser is Dr. Tristan Denley. He's in the university system. He's got this half-baked scheme where he wants to lower our core curriculum requirements in history and government, and I think this is absolutely the wrong thing to do. I think there's mounting criticism from regents and lawmakers, and I hope that doesn't happen, and we'll see.
All right, Kathy, go on to you.
Oh, thanks. Well, first of all, shout out to all the yoga instructors and the fitness instructors that are going online and offering free classes for those of us who are staying at home and need a little help getting some exercise. And then that was serious, but also for small business owners who are doing everything they can to keep their employees on payroll, even if it's just a little bit. hats off to you. I know you're under a tremendous amount of stress, and we appreciate everything that you're doing just to keep people employed as long as you can. And the losers are anybody who's not taking this seriously. Stay at home, keep your distance, don't be cavalier about it, because you might be carrying it even though you're not symptomatic.
All right, Janelle.
All right, well, I want to start by making the Fox 5 Atlanta team my winner for putting together this whole setup and making sure everything is safe. We had little Kleenex boxes on the doors so we don't have to touch handles, and I certainly appreciate all of that. And then I also would like to take this time to ask everyone to send prayers to my very, very, very good friend, Karen Walker, whose father is currently, he tested positive. Thank God she's fine, but he did test positive for COVID-19, and he is currently in Emory. And so we can just send prayers to the family just to keep pushing through, and that he'll be okay, and that we'll get a cure and get this virus under control.
Definitely sending prayers to him and all of those affected by the coronavirus. Theron.
The first shout out I want to give and make winners are all the healthcare providers, the grocery store workers who are showing up every day. We think that, we don't often give credit to the doctors that have to show up to treat people who have been affected. Also, my next winner is going to be Billie Freeman. He received 2 awards during the ATL Next Industry Day that was put on by Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. It was a great event. Definitely want to give him a big shout out. And my last winner is definitely going to be Sonia Halpern, who received a award during the legislative session for all her work in the arts, education, and all the different community events that she's a part of. So definitely want to make her a winner as well.
Great, all great winners. Census, don't forget about the census. Many of you have received your forms in the mail this week. If you haven't, just go to 2020census.gov and fill out your form. Thanks everyone so much for tuning in. Stay healthy.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.